Good evening.
To God be the glory. For the great things that He has done. I sought the Lord. And He heard. And He answered.
Jesus.
31 years ago, back in home in Biloxi, Mississippi, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer. God brought me through that. I only had to have some radiation during that time. Last year in March, I had come home from work. Took a shower. Something said, "Hey girl, you haven't checked yourself in a minute." So I checked my left breast. All was well. But when I checked my right breast, I felt something right here. I said, okay. I didn't alert my husband. I checked it again. Same thing was there. So that was a Friday evening. That Monday morning, I called my oncologist and I said, hey, I need to come in and see you. She said, well, I'm busy today. I'm full. Can you come in the morning? I said, sure. Make a long story short, I went in. She said, after she examined me, she said, well, I'm going to send you over to Methodist Cancer Center, the Woodlands, and I want to get some tests. 3 days later, they called me back and they told me that I had invasive ductal carcinoma. I said, okay. She said, well, do you know what that is? I said, sure. So you're telling me that I have breast cancer, right? She said, yes. I said, what's the next step? She said, I'm going to schedule you to go and see an oncologist. I said, okay, not a problem. How soon? She said, within the next 24 hours. I said, okay. I said, so within the next 24 hours, this must be urgent.
Yeah.
So I looked at it like this. What my female doctor said was urgent. I'm looking at what God said.
Come on.
So the next day I went to see the oncologist. My question to her, my husband and I, well, what stage am I in? She pulled up all my stuff on her computer. She said, you're stage 3. I said, okay. I said, so nothing in the left breast? No. Only in the right breast? Yes. What's my plan of care? By this time, she looked at me. She said, well, you're asking questions like you really know what's going on. I said, sure I do. She said, well, what we recommend at this point in time is that we start chemo immediately.
Jesus.
I said, okay. She said, you don't seem like you're too upset. I said, no.
Yeah. Jesus.
She said, why? My husband was sitting there. He's retired Navy. My husband's been a deacon from Louisiana over 50 years. So one thing we know.
Come on.
We know God. So I told her, I said, well, I have faith. She said, faith? I said, oh, baby, the size of a mustard seed. She said, oh, okay. She said, well, we're going to start your chemo next week. She said, but I want to warn you. It's going to be the strongest dosage. She said, you're a husband? My husband said, yes. She said, well, make sure when you come now, you have a driver. I said, okay. My driver's always going to be God. Straight up. So I went the next week and we began chemo. That was in April of last year. So I had chemo every 3 weeks until the beginning of October. The 2 weeks in between, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I had to go for IVs. They put a port in me, which I still have my port. So I did chemo last year up until October. Then I had to wait 6 weeks and I had a lumpectomy. So the mass that I had, watch this, God shrunk that thing. So when it was time for surgery, the surgeon, I met with the surgeon, she said, well, all we need to do is go in there and take it out. It's so small now. I said, okay. So we did a lumpectomy, and I got all girdle and all this, I can't show y'all what it looks like. So that was in November. So I had to wait until February of this year, Monday through Friday, the entire month, and also the first week of March, I had radiation. My oncologist said, well, you gonna ring the bell and this is the final journey. I said, okay. So I did all of that celebratory ringing the bell on March the 7th. 2 weeks later, when I went back to see her, she said, Dr. Brooks, I said, She said, I have to tell you something. I said, okay, what is it? She said, you calm again. Are you okay? I said, what is it? She said, we're going to have to put you back on chemo, a lower dosage, for 8 months. So me, I'm counting in my head. I'm like, okay, 8 months, 8 months, 8 months. November? She said, yes. She said, you'll take a lower dosage every 3 weeks until November 4th. I said, okay. She said, can you handle it? I said, listen to me. The God that has carried me from April of last year, and here we are in March of 2025. If he brought me through all of these things, I know he's going to continue to do just that. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I know about me. And in this walk with God, there ain't nothing, notice I said ain't, there ain't nothing that God can do. When I tell y'all, I have walked the walk, this sister right here, this sister right here, we call each other sister because we are sisters in Christ.
Yes.
But there's been some days that it got tough. But this sister right here, she prayed me right on through it. And when I look back at all that I have been through, it was nobody but God. Now I'm going to hurry this up because I don't want to take too much of your time. So my husband and I live in Summerwood. My husband was my caregiver. Last year there were times that I would have chemo and would get ready to get up out of the bed the next day and hit the floor. I literally had to stop driving because they were concerned that I was going to pass out at the wheel. So I just started back driving in December. And now I let the wheel